Hi, and welcome to Guardians of Salesforce, the podcast where we cut through the noise to talk honestly about securing Salesforce in the real world. With Agentforce, Salesforce is ushering a new era for the platform and the ecosystem. With AI-driven assistants now directly integrated into workflows, businesses are moving faster and smarter than ever before. But with that power comes a new set of risks. So how do you secure AI that's constantly learning, adapting, and making decisions inside your CRM? And equally as important, how can AI itself be used to strengthen security? So today we're joined by Rachel Beards, Director of Security Architects at Salesforce, to explore this balance of AI for security and security for AI. So we'll look at what organizations need to know right now about protecting their Salesforce data in an Agentforce world, and how AI is reshaping the security conversation for both defenders and attackers. So welcome, Rachel. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Of course. Thanks so much for joining us. We've done webinars together in the past, but this is my first podcast, our first podcast together. So thanks so much for joining. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad to be here. And just by way of introduction, you mentioned I'm a director of security architects here on the Salesforce team. I've been at Salesforce for 11 years now, focused on security across the platform. But this has been a really interesting time learning all about trusted agentics and helping teach some of those security and governance principles to our customers too.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot that's changing with Salesforce. Especially when it comes to Agentforce and how customers are thinking about all things AI. And of course, with that, you have to think about security as well. So excited to dive a bit deeper into all of that with you today. Now, to get started, we've discussed with you and I sort of some of these workshops that your team is doing with customers all over North America. And you talk about building AI securely using the AI trust layer. So when we're talking about trust within AI on Salesforce, what does that actually mean in practice? And what role do kind of guardrails play in creating that trust?
Yes, guardrails is a really important topic, as is trust overall. So a lot of organizations that I speak with are really concerned. They're excited to roll out AI solutions. And they want to get into that agentic layer, but they have a lot of concerns about trust in terms of not just the safety and security of their data, but making sure that they get responses that are valid and making sure that they don't see signs of toxicity in those responses either. So we spend a lot of time in our Trusted Agentics workshops that we're running, helping customers get hands-on with Agentforce and with the Einstein Trust Layer, and with some of the other security controls that customers can manage to keep their agents safe and keep them on track. So to that end, when we think about building trust in AI, Gen AI, and agentic solutions in general, I think about a few key topics. One thing I think about is making sure that we have protection for any kinds of sensitive data, making sure that just as you would for your normal, platform security type of data conversations, that we're putting in place things like least privilege access and securing data in general, but then making sure that we add a layer of protection to data that's being used in AI. Accuracy and explainability come up all the time because, like I mentioned, in order to trust that the output of that agent, we need to know that we're getting good answers that are based off of real information that you have grounded that agent in, with citations so that you can get that level of explainability as to where those answers were derived from. Having strong governance over the way that agents are used in your organization. And again, what are your agents being given access to? Having guardrails, which I'll talk a little bit more about here in just a minute, because those are a major focus around agents in general, keeping them on track and making sure that they do what they're supposed to do and don't overstep. And then another topic that I hear come up all the time is content safety and security. So here again, we're thinking about toxicity and things like that. So just thinking about guardrails on their own, this is incredibly important. And especially when we think about agents that are working autonomously, those agents might be operating without a human in the loop at all, sending responses to your customers, your stakeholders, et cetera. So in those instances, it's especially paramount to have guardrails that are built in that control what the agent can do and what they can't do. And the guardrails can take a few different types of forms. Primarily in the Salesforce space with Agentforce, I think about preventative guardrails, runtime guardrails, and guardrails that are self-improving. From a preventative standpoint, here I'm thinking a lot about the access controls, the permissions that we're giving the agent. What context is the agent running in? Are they running as the running user, like they might when we're dealing with an employee agent versus an external facing agent where you need to have an agent profile where you can actually grant them access to objects and field level security and things like that individually. At runtime, I'm thinking about things like the Einstein trust layer and using our LLM gateway. I'm thinking about making sure that we have some ability to audit and have some human oversight into what these agents are doing, and having some AI-assisted runtime supervision overall. For self-improving guardrails, I want to make sure that we're looking for signs of attempted abuse. We're looking at the policies and if there's any deviation from policies, and also looking at improvements over the time to your knowledge base. So a lot goes into making sure that agents are secure and have strong governance. I touched on least privilege. I like to make sure, again, that we have the right permissions for these agents, that we're able to review those permissions regularly, that we have strong access controls in place for authentication. I talked a little bit about monitoring. That's really important. And then, again, just for the agent actions themselves, making sure that you have a set scope that's pretty limited into what those agents are given for their instructions, and then being able to validate the input and the error handling as well.
Amazing. Yeah, I think there's so many guardrails and tools that Salesforce has given customers to help roll out something that can feel, I think, in today's age, a sort of first wave of agentic AI, a bit overwhelming, but obviously there are plenty of tools here to help with all of those things when it comes to governance, content safety that you mentioned, and all of those different guardrails, even ones that are kind of self-improving, which is awesome. And I want to just kind of circle back specifically to sensitive data, because I think that's something that a lot of people are thinking about. They have a lot of data in their Salesforce environments. A lot of that might be sensitive. So how does the trust layer protect sensitive data that these agents might have access to?
Yeah, there's a few different ways that the Einstein trust layer can help protect sensitive data. And it's important to understand the entire cycle from prompt to response there. I tend to think about this as the prompt itself. What are the guardrails that go into setting up your templates and what we're asking this agent to do? Again, those agent actions and those instructions. And then we also start to think about dynamic grounding, because you are using data in conjunction with these prompts. You're merging in things like customer names, maybe emails, phone numbers, booking details, order numbers, all kinds of information that you might be including as part of your prompts. When we send that prompt out to an LLM, it's going through our secure gateway. So that's protecting data there. And we have a zero data retention policy with any of our external LLM providers. So what that means, and this is really important, is that the data is, as it says, zero data retention, the data is not retained, but also the models are not being trained on your data. So the LLM does not get to store your prompt. They do not get to store your response, and they do not get to use your data for training of their models. We say your data is on our product here at Salesforce, and that extends to the way that we're leveraging generative AI as well. And then we have to make sure that we have a way to securely deliver the responses. So when we think about the response security, we're thinking again about that dynamic grounding and being able to bring in your CRM data, your data cloud data, information from knowledge articles, perhaps, putting all of that together into your responses, and then being able to have things like content quality metrics, citations I mentioned earlier, having an audit trail, and being able to monitor the usage of your agent, your user utterances, and how those responses are being generated, and get feedback so you know if the responses that are being generated are really helpful. Some of what I just mentioned has been around since the beginning of Agentforce. We launched Agentforce with the Einstein Trust Layer, but as time has gone on, we've also enhanced the trust layer. So we've been able to make enhancements to dynamic grounding to increase the relevance of responses and reduce hallucinations. We were able to add citations for selected applications are already GA, but we're going GA forward-looking statements at the end of this year. With platform citation service. So you'll be able to follow citation links in the responses to get a deeper dive, and also review excerpts of the source in order to see where these responses are coming from. And then I mentioned content quality as well. That's really important. So you want to be able to detect any sign of hallucinations. You want to be able to validate the accuracy of your responses and have more explainability in general, so you can be assured that you're getting the right responses out of your agents.
Awesome. I think that's amazing. And there's a lot of it's very interesting when you say things like zero data retention, right? Obviously that's been, that's something we hear a lot from Salesforce. And I think when people oftentimes think about leveraging these LLMs, you kind of think that anything you ask it is going to kind of go out into the world and be, for public use. But that's obviously not the case here. Very clearly so. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really important to be grounded in realistic data. And like I mentioned, not just CRM data, but being able to pull in knowledge articles, product manuals, PDFs, anything you can build into a data cloud library to make sure that you're getting those approved responses is going to really strengthen the trust overall.
Yeah. And it's such a huge step forward, I think, for these agents to be able to pull in so many different sources of data. I think a lot of these types of tools previously, bots, we've all had experience like interacting with bots. And if they're just trying to pull off of like one keyword and it's just a cookie cutter response, right, that doesn't really provide any value to the customer. So the fact that these agents really can, with Data Cloud, ingest things from your website, product manuals, knowledge articles from outside sources, I think that makes them so much more powerful. Now, I'm curious, like, what some of the other foundational tools that are available as part of Agentforce to help customers deploy these things securely. Maybe different like policies, different resources, instructions.
Yeah. And again, this is an area where I've seen us continue to develop over time. We launched Agentforce with some of these functions and have continued to grow and change both as technology changes and also as we get feedback about what is considered to be a trusted source of agentic AI. So system policies and instructions tends to be a mainstay in how we configure our agents. You'll spend a lot of time when you're setting up an agent thinking about your topics and what types of work you want this agent to do, and being able to give it clear instructions about what the agent should do and what it should not do, what topics to stay away from, and even some error handling for when things go awry. We've also continued to build out our prompt injection detection model. That's going to be beta in October, so coming soon. And agent topic controls are also going to be GA in October, so around our Dreamforce time of releases. Toxicity detection continues to improve as well. We have system policies. We have toxicity detection GA right now for responses. So making sure that the agent doesn't give a toxic response. But we're looking for toxicity detection in the inputs. That will be GA later this year as well. And agent topic controls, I already mentioned, coming soon. So when I think about things like system policies, I am looking towards developing controls and instructions that would guide an LLM away from content that could be toxic or biased or even offensive in its generations. That's already GA. Our toxicity detection model is something that we've been working on with our Salesforce AI research team. And like I mentioned, we're strengthening that with input toxicity detection. And then the agent topic controls just to give a topic classifier that can help steer the agent away from any kind of problematic content.
Okay. And you mentioned the prompt injection detection model that's going to be beta in October. I think this is kind of a buzzword that I've heard a bit about, but maybe for the listeners, can you help kind of explain like what a prompt injection attack would be, and then how Salesforce, can currently or with this new model help, defend against them?
Yeah, there's a few different ways that prompt injection attacks show up in this agentic space. So sometimes we see things where somebody is using the prompt to try to pretend or role play something to get the agent to give them different types of information than what they have been designed to give. Also, we've seen examples of privilege escalation. So trying to get the agent to, increase their permissions in the org. We see examples of prompt leakage, encoding attacks, privacy attacks, and even individuals trying to add malicious code through prompting. So it's really important to be aware of the ways that somebody might misuse an agent to get data, to damage data, or to otherwise act in your organization. So as I mentioned earlier, being able to have strong system policies that guide that agent away from those responses and shut down that type of interaction is really critical. Being able to direct, to apply our detection model towards direct and indirect injection attacks is really important. And then having those agent topic controls that allows you to basically detect attempts to reverse engineer the agent. That's also a really important attribute of what we're doing right now.
Interesting. Yeah, I think things like the topic controls and training an agent topics that it shouldn't touch and then shouldn't sort of entertain. And then that along with the sort of permissions that you give an agent, right? What it can and can't do within your environment. I think those are two, interesting, but obviously powerful tools along with all the other ones you mentioned to kind of help prevent those types of attacks. Now, I know that Salesforce has things like audit trails, right? There's always been audit trails in different forms. There are certainly trust dashboards, and now there's the AI governance app. So I am curious to learn a little bit more about these and how these tools can help companies, stay compliant from a governance perspective, while still being able to leverage the power of Agentforce and agentic agents.
Yeah, these tools are really important to being able to monitor and like you said, to reinforce that everything is going smoothly and that your agents are operating as expected, you're going to have a lot of questions from your internal users as well as from your external users about how are these agents being used, and are they effective, and what types of answers are we getting? So again, continuing the theme of we released with some things and we're adding on with some things. Audit trail has always been an important concept for agents. And you can access your audit trail in Data Cloud already. So you have Data Cloud enabled, and you're able to run reports that help you better understand the prompts, the responses, trust scores, feedback, all of that. So you can really get to the bottom of what is being passed through to the LLM and what is being sent out to your customer. There's also a ton of other agent analytics out there that can help you monitor for things like user utterances. The utterances are literally what they're telling your agent, and being able to monitor for the adoption and performance of your agents as well. There are some app event type of logging options available for you as well, with more to come there. And then we also offer GA already a pre-built trust dashboard. So that gives you some pretty simple monitoring that's ready to go out of the box, but also you can clone it and modify it to show what you need it to show. And then on the App Exchange by Salesforce Labs, there's an AI governance app. So there you can capture and manage your AI assets and monitor for risks as well. So all of these tools should help you feel more confident in terms of how is the agent being used today, what types of responses are coming out of the agent, what is the feedback that the end user is giving in terms of the quality of that response. And then, as mentioned, being able to understand the adoption and performance of the agent as well, so you can really monitor overall for your return on investment.
Yeah, I love how all of these sort of like governance tools and monitoring tools that help, admin Salesforce teams not just deploy Agentforce, but also sort of continuously monitor it, improve it, are so native to the Salesforce platform that these teams are already comfortable working in, and the platform that they know. Right, just like the pre-built trust dashboards, that's going to be so familiar for every sort of Salesforce professional, and same thing with like the governance app, right? These are things that kind of, I think, help make this Agentforce adoption much more seamless and familiar than it might otherwise feel if they were talking about, some other platform that is new to everyone. So that's great. Well, I think that is about wraps it up for today. Rachel, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. For any listeners, if you are a Salesforce customer in North America, I would certainly encourage you to try to attend one of these Agentforce workshops with the distinguished security architects. And yeah, thank you so much again, Rachel, for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and hope to speak with everyone soon. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks again so very much for joining us today. Until next time.